It's a very strange, mystical city, London. It's a strange place. Spiritual rivers have been stopped from running. I think we've got a bit removed from the land. Over the years, there's this feeling of separation. I suppose that feeling's probably been there for thousands of years, and processes like the Industrial Revolution have heightened it, accentuated it, and quickened it as much as anything. And that feeling of separation is the big illusion of it, feeling separate from one another, separate from the land, separate from their history. I think there's been a lot of damage done, especially the last 10, 15 years here. You know, the boot's really been put in. Fear's deliberately been caused, people separated. A lot of dodgy business has gone on. It wasn't only the sort of cosmic identification, the kind of identification you can get with an Indian living in Madras or a car mechanic living in Milan, so to speak. There was the specific identification of the tradition that I've come to realise there is of Cockney mystics. I grew up thinking, well, I feel so different to everybody else, and then over the years you come to find there's one or two people the same as yourself, and then you actually find it's part of a tradition in London, actually, you know, this sort of non-conformist kick, you know, and it's nice not to feel lonely, you know, just to have a little bit of company along the way, and William Blake's like an eternal presence. London. Lonely London. I wander through each chartered street, near where the chartered Thames does flow, and mark in every face I meet marks of weakness, marks of woe. He was a Cockney, and this part of London as well, he wrote about in Jerusalem. A mate of mine left a book for me some time ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and said you should check this out, as did other people recommend Blake. And the seed didn't fall on stony ground at that point. I just thought Blake was a Victorian who shot tigers. Didn't know anything about him. I opened the book, boom, and I was hit with beams of light just straight up into my eyes, and there was, you know, this man's the real deal. He knows what he's talking about. Blake was born around about 1757. Lived through into the next century. He was trained as an engraver, didn't have any other formal education. He was a wonderful artist, wonderful poet, spoke his mind, was actually tried for sedition. He was up in court at one time for slagging the king off. I can certainly identify with the feelings of being misunderstood and not fitting into the corporate machine. And Blake was actually, I mean, I've had a little bit of trouble with my life in that way, but Blake really was the whole hog. He was treated as a joke by this stab, somebody totally not to be taken seriously, which is what they do with people who actually have got something to say. People tried to control him, he wouldn't allow that to happen, he was very much a free spirit. He totally knew what he was doing, because it come from a higher source. You can't help but have faith in that situation. And so he knew, well, this is for eternity. This is for eternity anyway. And then I think your work becomes a prayer. There's a feeling of quiet before the storm, and then something else comes in. You tune in with something, and that thing is within as well as outside. But hopefully one becomes clear. This thing of being clear, not blocked, is important, and then it comes and you let it flow. If you're thinking, personally, I found that when you're thinking of, gee, I hope this is successful because then I can go on holiday this year, or, you know, I can go and buy a new car if this one sells. You know, it doesn't work like that, you know, because then it's not good, because you've got rubbish on your mind, you're not concentrating, you know. And I've worked with a few people, I know people who should know better, you know, oh, I really need a hit, you know. The little boy, lost in the lonely fen, led by the wandering light, began to cry, but God, ever nigh, appeared like his father in white. I think it's a postmodernist thing, this thing of God. you know, that people are afraid to speak of God. It's okay to be spiritual, man, but it's not good to talk of God. And, you know, this is strange. I suppose it's understandable because religion's got a bad name, you know, and many, especially the so-called book religions, you know, have obviously played their parts in people sort of being persecuted. And of course it's not the religion or the idea, it's people involved and people politicising. I haven't got a problem with the word God, you know. There isn't time to debate semantics, yeah? You go with a feeling. Got God, Allah, Jehovah, I don't mind. Sweet babe in thy face, holy image I can trace. Sweet babe, once like thee, thy maker lay and wept for me. Wept for me, for thee, for all. When he was an infant small, there his image ever seen, heavenly face that smiles on thee. Joys and woes come woven fine, you know. It's just that the lessons I feel to some extent I've learnt in my life. Blake obviously had understood this and more, you know. What the Chinese are called a Tao, you know, the way, the mysterious way. Those that know do not speak, those that speak do not know. The way there are so many things, the way we're programmed to be fearful, you know. And Blake goes the opposite. Don't be fearful. Go into life. Be yourself. Trust your instincts. Trust yourself. Rather than this con job that gets done where, you know, by way of advertising, where, you know, that's not the right kind of suit to wear this year. That's not the right kind of car to drive. That's not the right kind of mineral water. We're constantly being taught to doubt ourselves and to move very fast and never reflect. And a non-reflective life, as far as I'm concerned, ain't worth a light. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night. What immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? I feel like I'm William Blake's agent. You know, I've set myself up as his agent, and that's that. So sometime, for a few months, I talk a lot about the man because I think it's a fantastic thing to turn people onto. What the hammer, what the chain, what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp, dare its deadly terror's clasp. Tiger, tiger, burning bright. It's funny, since then, lots of little connections. I'm hearing one or two other projects, a film I was told about with Blake, with Johnny Depp in it apparently, which I had no idea, which is, well, you know, I think that's wonderful. I find this record very, very easy to talk about because, see, the authorities are stopping the works of William Blake still 200 years on. It's Prince Philip, isn't it? The whore and gambler by the state licence build that nation's fate. The harlots cry from street to street, shall weave old England's winding sheet. The winners shout, the losers curse, dance before dead England's hearse. Every night and every morn some to misery are born.